Hi there, my name is Lydia Martinez. I am the owner of Elle Marketing and Events, and I am here today with my very good friend, Brandon Hill. Hi, Brandon. How are you doing?
Good morning, Lydia. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I am so delighted to have you here. We've been planning this for a little while, and one of the things that I love about talking with other marketers, and one of my questions that I always ask them is, how did you get into marketing as a career?
Well, not surprisingly, it wasn't always destined to be that. I went to college to be a history professor, and along the way had a few marketing internships because I was interested at the time with this thing called email that was just
Yeah.
burgeoning. But as I got more and more closer to my degree, I realized that history was not a way to make a great living, so to say, and ended up in marketing roles, and it kind of carried me forward.
Yeah. Well, and I love asking this question of marketers because I have never met a single marketer that started out and was like, I think I'll go into marketing.
Yeah, I've met a few over the years, but they tend to be in like huge corporate kind of marketing roles or almost consultants, like at very large companies. But you're right, I haven't met a ton of them in my experience.
A lot of us kind of fall into it. So for me, my background and what I studied, I started going to college pretty young, and actually I was studying archaeology and anthropology. And then I had some health problems. I did kind of a pivot and started studying theater and broadcast journalism. And then ultimately, like, I was going to college, my dad was like, you know what you should do? You should study marketing. And I was like, whatever, Dad, I'm not going to do marketing. I didn't even know what it was. And then while I was in college, I was working at Barnes and Noble because I love books. I started out in the coffee shop. Then I was over the kids department. And I would periodically quit and travel, and they'd hire me back. And then I was a manager with them. And then one time after I came back from a trip and wanted to get a management job back, they were like, we don't have any of those right now, but hey, there's this community relations manager and event planner position. You'd probably be good at that. Why don't you do that? And I discovered that I actually loved that process of working with people, telling stories, gathering people together for a purpose. And so I kind of like fell into that marketing role over the years. And I just realized the things that I loved about archaeology, which is, telling the story of ancient people, and the thing that I loved about theater and broadcast journalism, telling the stories, wrapped really well into marketing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that people would ask me and still do is, how did you go from history to marketing? And one of the things I tell them is that, studying for history is a lot of essay writing, where you're coming up with a thesis, and then the rest of the time you're supporting that thesis with, paragraphs of backup material.
Yeah.
I've always considered marketing is no different. You've got your product, which is your thesis and why people need it.
Yeah.
And the marketing part is supporting that thesis with, all your marketing efforts.
Yeah, you're literally walking people through that journey, kind of taking them by the hand and walking them through it.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the things now with marketing is as a, working in the digital marketing space, I was that person that was like, I will never have a social media account. All my friends were on MySpace, and I was like, nope, not going to do it. And then my husband, Greg, was on Facebook. He's like, you should get on Facebook so that I can like say that I'm in a relationship with you. And I was like, nope, not going to do it. I will never be on social media. I have no interest. And then when I started as a marketer and event planner at Whole Foods Market, I walk in the very first day, they hand me my computer, and they're like, hey, you need to start a Facebook page and a Twitter account for the store. And I was just like, oh.
Plunge.
Yeah. And then I discovered what an amazing tool social media was. And of course, I've gone from never will I ever to this is my job. Have
Yeah.
you ever had, is there anything that you've had that like surprised you in the marketing realm that you didn't necessarily expect to be doing?
Boy, aside from all of it, yeah, social would definitely be up there. I mean, I came into my corporate jobs from nonprofit work where it was largely kind of events and sort of,
Yeah.
people marketing, so to say. And social definitely, I remember when it came out, I mean, I used it for myself, but I never thought of it really as a marketing tool until I started my first corporate job, and we started to see other, corporations using it. And it kind of was a light bulb going off in my head as to, not only can I use this tool as to kind of make my mark within this company as sort of the up and coming expert on this stuff, but we can actually use it to drive real business value. And,
Yeah.
here we are so many years later, and it's still as important than ever.
It's so much more complex, but it's still really, really critical.
Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned, doing events as marketing. I've always maintained events are marketing. If you're a nonprofit, if you're a business, your events are marketing events, start to finish. Networking is marketing, things like that.
Yeah.
But I saw social media when I was doing all kinds of events at Whole Foods Market. I realized that social media was an amazing tool to drive people to events. And it was the first time where I saw, I'd done events for years at Barnes and Noble, but never used social media as a tool. And then from there, when I was at Whole Foods and started actively using social media to get people to my events, the amount of people that I reached and the variety of people I was able to reach just grew exponentially. And that was something that was really, really exciting to me, that I was able to have that conversation with more people and get more people to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while email still remains an important, digital strategy for marketing, it is harder than ever to get mind share from emails. And traditionally, as you know, in the past, event marketing was a lot of emails to people trying to get them to show up, where now with social, it's so much easier to get that mind share. And to get people to share that with, their networks and communities. So I totally agree. I absolutely agree.
So one of the other questions I always love asking other marketers is, early on when you first got into marketing, what was one of your early mistakes that you made? And I can answer this question first while you're pondering.
Okay.
So one of my, you just mentioned like email marketing as a thing. One of my big mistakes, I had a big list of emails, and this was really before you had any email marketing platforms. So you just sent it from your work email. And so I sent out an email to like 5,000 people that were just in like a sheet where I copied all the emails and then pasted them into my email and then sent that out to invite people to, I think it was one of the Harry Potter release parties that I was producing. But instead of putting it into the BCC, I pasted it in so that everybody could see everybody's emails and hit send.
Oh, geez.
And I got so many complaints because I accidentally just shared this entire list. This was even before people could, like, if somebody needed to opt out, they had to email you and you had to like scroll through a list to delete their name. And it was just like an honest mistake on my part, but so ridiculously silly.
Yeah, I think, obviously there have been some career mistakes, but I won't get into those. I definitely had my fair share of some email list snafus. I remember one time we were doing a targeted email. It was when the iPad had just come out to win some ads, and it was supposed to go to like some very top of the funnel potential customers to try and, keep them engaged and with the company. And instead of it going out to maybe 100 people, it went out to about 100,000 people. And so suddenly we had, hundreds of thousands of people saying, yeah, I want an iPad. How do I win the iPad? And we had to send out this email correcting the story, and, crafting that message on its own was a bit of marketing wizardry right there.
Well, and that is, I think the job of a marketer is crafting the story. Yeah. Even when that story is perhaps a little bit negative, that's one of the challenges, I think, of marketing, is you also have to, sometimes when things go really wrong, you have to take a step back and say, what is the story? Not take it personally, and help people to understand like what the story is. And sometimes that's really challenging for sure as a marketer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's just owning up to the mistake is all you can do. And there's nothing wrong with that. We are humans after all. So
that is always what I recommend, is an honest, transparent, like own the mistake and be direct and be honest about it, rather than trying to polish it away. Because people see through that. People are more happy than we give them credit for most of the time.
Yep, I agree.
So you and I have worked together on a bunch of different projects over the years. We're actually introduced through another friend who also owns a marketing agency, Mary Pat Kavanaugh. And we met because we were working on a project, and we won't name any names, but we were working on a project where everything that could go wrong went wrong.
To put it lightly.
To put it lightly. And it wasn't your client and it wasn't my client. And so because of that, we were caught up in this like whirlwind of challenges that were unexpected. But one of the things that I admired about you right from the start was that you were bending over backwards to try and make everything right, despite the fact that you had very little control. And that was something that was like, I think, like, I'm going to stay in touch with Brandon, and I think that he and I could work together.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know what kind of characteristic or personality trait that is about me, but when I get into these projects, it's sort of just throwing yourself, 100% into it to make sure that things work out. And I think, especially, there's always that connection to you and your own client. But when you're also kind of trying to help somebody else out, there's that, added driver of, we really need to try and make this work, not only for, myself to succeed, but also all the other,
all the other players.
Exactly. For, for you to be successful, for anybody else to be successful who's driving that project. So
yeah, absolutely. So taking all, as far as how you and I like to work together, and I love collaborating with other great marketers, one of the things that I think we do well is we'll often like have a brainstorming session or bounce ideas off of each other and make recommendations and then come together on what a project needs to be. One of our recent projects that just wrapped up after a year and a half was working with, again, our friend Mary Pat on her personal branding. And that was such a fun project for us on so many levels. Talk a little bit about that and what it is we're working on and how we work together.
Yeah, for sure. I think that with the Mary Pat project, the common, goal that you and I had was to, we have this friend who also is kind of in a similar profession as we are. We see all the great things that she is and does. And, sometimes you're not the best person to be able to tell your full story. And so you and I kind of being on the outside and seeing all of these wonderful characteristics about her, it was a really fun project for you and I to say, no, look, this is why you're great. This is why people like you. And seeing not only you and I kind of like, yeah, this is awesome, but also seeing, Mary Pat kind of perk up is like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
This is what I'm great at. And that kind of collaboration is just so fun and special because not only is it kind of a professional, win, so to say, but to be able to really see, the personal impact that it has on a client is fantastic.
Yeah. And one thing really stood out that you were just saying, which was sometimes we're not the best person to tell our own story.
Yep.
It is very hard to distill down to the essence of who you are professionally, what you're best at, where you excel, what lights you up. For yourself, you may have those things floating around in your head, but actually pulling them out and putting them down in paper in a way that is cohesive and makes sense and tells your personal story or tells the story of your business is so much harder.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you and I joke around about this all the time with our own, being kind of the individual proprietors of our brands.
Yeah.
It's real easy to get stuck in your own headspace about, what you are or what you do, but yet, outside of your own headspace, the world sees you as an entirely different entity. And it's important to have perspective on that so that, you don't get stuck in your own headspace about the story you're telling.
Well, and sometimes you just need that extra encouragement, not just to get out of your own headspace, but to actually like share and talk about what you're doing. One of my struggles personally, I set a goal a long time ago to work on weekly videos and things like that. But here's the thing, I wasn't doing it on my own. So I literally had to work with my team to schedule them and to admin them and to put them out there. As a matter of fact, there's a third person here. Gabby, do you want to pop on really quickly and wave hello? She's fixing her hair.
Hi.
There's Gabby. She's one of my project managers. Thanks, Gabby. You can go ahead and go back to hiding. So if Gabby wasn't here and scheduling these and sending out the emails to people like Brandon to show up and be guests, I would still be hiding behind this like wall of fear and not doing this and not putting myself out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's so important. I think as marketing people, we tend to be a little bit more people as it is, and to make sure that you're relying on whoever your people are, whether it's your team or whether it's some trusted professional confidants, whoever it is. I mean, it's so important to have that to sort of keep us in the business of being people and telling those stories.
Brandon, I am so delighted that you are one of my people. So thank you for that.
Likewise.
Thank you. So Brandon and I work on a few different types of projects together. The big one is that Brandon is the project manager on all of our website design projects. And the reason being, and the thing that I love about you, is you're really, really good at the detail start to finish stuff. I do big picture really well. So I'm like overall strategy. This is the flow of the message. This is the customer journey that we want them to take. Like, here's the site map. And that's something that I excel at. Brandon excels at like the nitty gritty. Here's how we get from site A to site to, from point A to point B. So I might do an outline of what I want the page to say. Brandon will create a wireframe that is a visual depiction of what it looks like based on my outline, which I don't have the patience to do. And so that's one of the things, like, as you're building, as people out there are building their own marketing team or building their own collaborators, it's important to find people whose skill sets exceed your own in different areas.
Maybe not exceed necessarily, because I have a lot of, positive things to say about you, but I think of the word complementary comes.
Yes, that is a great word. In areas where you can be complementary of each other's like best skill set. How's that?
Yeah.
Does that
And I think that that's why you and I, have had such a good partnership is, it's always a collaboration, and it's always, you're able to do what you do best, and I'm able to do what I do best. And I think that that always, ends up being the benefit for our client.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and there's a great level of trust there as well, that each person is going to get the things done that they say they're going to do. And so that's something else that's really important.
Yeah.
Brandon, thank you so much. This week we've been talking about and introducing people on my social media channels to all the different amazing people that I get to work with, that I consider to be on the Elle marketing team, so to speak. And so thanks again for being one of my people, being on this team and helping us grow and us really take care of our clients in the past couple of years. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, Lydia. This was very nice of you to think of me, and always great chatting with you, my friend.
Equally so. Take care and have a great day.
Great. Thanks, Lydia.